For more on this, we're joined by Sky News Washington correspondent Annalise Nielsen. Annalise, that was just a few minutes of nearly 50 minutes. Remarkable scenes described by many as ugly.
And it is important to put that context in how long this Oval Office meeting was before it devolved into that real shouting match between everyone seated there, the president, the vice president and Zelensky. It really was a 2 against 1 by the end of it. But this didn't start out so poorly, and this is kind of more what you'd expect from the behind the scenes, that there would be this kind of frank discussion behind closed doors and then things get leaked out over time. To see something like this play out in front of the press in the Oval Office for the world to see is extraordinary and shows just how fraught this minerals deal was before they got into the room. And of course, there's now that confirmation from the White House that that deal was not signed, that the lunch between Volodymyr Zelensky, Donald Trump and their teams did not go ahead, and that now Zelensky was asked to leave the White House campus, which he did shortly after. So the planned press conference between the two leaders has been cancelled. There was some discussion of potentially Donald Trump doing a solo press conference, but that seems like it won't be happening either. We've just had confirmation too that a number of planned events from Zelensky have been cancelled here in Washington, D.C. He was supposed to address the Hudson Institute. He was supposed to visit Ukrainian House here in Washington, D.C. Those events have been cancelled. The only thing still on the schedule is this interview on Fox News with anchor Brett Baer, a real straight shooter and very powerful figure in the media, especially with a long history of covering the White House. And he's seen as a very reputable journalist. And so this will be the moment. They know that Trump and his team will be watching. And so there has been discussion about this potentially being the one chance Zelensky has to turn things around after that meeting went so poorly. What we've seen from Donald Trump's team is they've put out a statement from Donald Trump himself saying, "We had a very meaningful meeting in the White House today. Much was learned that could never be understood without conversation under such fire and pressure. It's amazing what comes out through emotion, and I have determined that President Zelensky is not ready for peace if America is involved, because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. I don't want advantage, I want peace. He disrespected the United States of America in its cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he is ready for peace." And another development in the last hour is Senator Lindsey Graham has spoken. Lindsey Graham has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine, representing more of that old school Republican Party approach to wanting to push back against Russian aggression and needing to maintain the sovereignty of Ukraine. He was critical in really getting a few of those funding deals through Congress by bringing fellow Republicans on side when it was the Biden administration pushing for those funding packages to be approved through Congress. He was there today. He had lunch with Donald Trump, he said afterwards, and he was scathing of what Zelensky did in the Oval Office. He said it was on Zelensky about how he behaved, and that this is a defining moment where Zelensky needs to find a way to apologise or to step aside.
Everything I and many have been working for to try to get a new relationship with the United States around our critical minerals deal beneficial to both of us was completely obliterated today. I met with Zelensky this morning. I urged him to stay on message, be grateful, be thankful. We'll talk about details of security guarantees later. Keep it upbeat, keep it positive. It was absolute, utter disaster. The question for me is he redeemable in the eyes of Americans?
Tim, when Zelensky was leaving the White House campus, he rushed very quickly into the car to leave. What we've seen since is just this statement posted to Twitter saying, "Thank you, America. Thank you for your support. Thank you for this visit. Thank you, POTUS," tagging the president's X or formerly Twitter account. "Congress and the American people, Ukraine needs just and lasting peace, and we are working exactly for that." So it seems that maybe the message has got through that he needs to be more conciliatory, that he needs to be more thankful and grateful to America in a public setting. And so that's why this interview coming up on Fox later today is so critical. This could be the defining thing that decides whether he gets another meeting with Donald Trump to sign this minerals deal. Given how this went, the sticking point for Trump was that Zelensky wanted a security guarantee. He wanted America to say that there'd be some enforcement to back up Ukraine if Russia violates the ceasefire agreement. We've seen the US happy to kind of throw that force behind when we've been talking about Israel, Gaza. And we know that Ukraine's been burned before on this with signing bad deals at the pressure of the West. They signed on and said they wouldn't have nuclear arms because they didn't want to threaten Russia, and that's left them vulnerable. There's been a lot of retrospective analysis about what they signed under the Obama administration to give up Crimea and how that left them vulnerable again. So this is, you can see, a sore point for the Ukrainians. They feel like they're being bullied into another bad deal. They want something in exchange for all the mineral resources that they're signing over the profits to the United States. But from the American perspective, this has become just an increasingly popular story being told within Republican circles, and especially among the Republican MAGA base, that they've sent hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine, that it's all corrupt, the money's disappeared, and they funded this war where no one else has. Of course, there's a lot more nuance to it than that, but at the end of the day, there is just a very decreasing appetite for continued financial support, and they know that, and Democrats are so bereft of leadership, they're not in a position to put up any decent fight.
Thank you, Annalise. We'll get more throughout the course of the morning.